she was
She's taking over.
Yeah.
So they're going to answer questions if anybody has them.
All right.
So if there's any questions or anything, we're more than happy to help.
I just have a quick question. What would the cost be? What costs are we looking at versus, I guess I'm just thinking out loud, versus a new building?
We did that study.
Yeah.
Well, the answer is based on the models that we've done. It costs less to build a new building without necessarily renovating or preparing the existing for something else. So if you were looking at, let's do a new building versus fix what you have, the first cost would be cheaper. Ongoing operational costs would be cheaper as well. The energy efficiency built into new technology in a new building would be less. Even if you apply that same approach to renovation, yes, it'll improve from what it is now, but energy efficiency in terms of its operational costs would be far greater, meaning less, if it were a new building. And I think it was about a 25% dollar cost between fixing what you have versus building a new one. So about 25% less.
I was just thinking, because the foundation is still the same, and you can't renovate all of these walls. So at some point, we'd still run into the same type of problems with the wear and tear versus a new one. I'm just thinking out loud.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
I want to back up to what I just said about a new building, in this case, would cost less than fixing what you have. That's not true across the board for any scenario. That's true for what we saw here. And I'll use an analogy that I use when I'm looking at municipal-type buildings. Typically, a life cycle is 30 years. Municipalities typically are in a 50-year range. So you're building a building that will endure for a longer period of time. And to use the good, better, best scenario to describe how that works. This building was built more towards the best side of that spectrum. That building was built more in the better, maybe, leaning a little bit towards just good. It's a different kind of construction than what you have over here. So its life cycle is maybe in that 30-year versus what we would typically see in 50 years. And that attributes to that cost. Hopefully I didn't go in too big a circle there, but it answers your question.
Right. That building is at 40 years right now, about, and it's probably a 30-year building.
It's more of a developer-like building versus a municipal-type building.
John, if I could, again, two of the reasons to keep what we have with one structure was what we spoke about with the single entry point for the carrying of the firearms and everything. And then the second would be, how would it work logistically to have the court in a second building when they do so many things back and forth between the buildings? It may make it logistically more difficult as well. So that was the premise of staying with one building and renovating it. Besides the clerk and myself, Travis McDougall is part of that work group, the magistrate, and Mike Saranen. So that's the five that have been spending some time. And then the attorney has sat in on several of the meetings as well.
Just seeing what all that has to be done, and it just seems like a lot for a building of that age. It just, but then, you know, that's what you all specialize in.
Right.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you. If,
Well, actually, if I, Madam, may I?
Yeah.
Thank you. A couple of comments and a question. First comment is thank you for the steps today. Thank you. That was a nice walkthrough. So I do appreciate the information that you shared with us. And building safety and security is always paramount. So the ideas that you were proposing, I thought were great. But the question I have, I suppose, is length of time this will take. I don't see that here, but I'm maybe missing something. To implement the proposed upgrades, about how long would that take?
We haven't looked at that recently. We did a year ago. We would probably be ready with construction documents, maybe by the end of the year, beginning of the, January, February. At that point, you would then bring a contractor in, and there's going to be some, hopping and moving and things like that that has to take place. I think we had it at 15 months. Does that sound?
Without remembering, that would be what I'd say.
Right.
During that 15-month.
Around about a 15-month construction period, because you're going to be doing construction, then hop and, move people around.
And it would be a phased process, and the big thing would be, like James just said, move. There'd be a move management aspect to it in terms of where does the court go during the course of construction, and that obviously would be an add-on soft cost to the overall budget, but that would be a logistic thing that we'd have to solve early.
And the building would still be the building would be able to be in use during that time?
That's how we looked at it, as an occupied, some sort of function going on in here.
Perfect. Thank you.
In the Civic Center.
In the Civic Center.
In the court, no.
Yeah, the court would probably be,
The courts are no, but the rest of the building,
yeah, the Civic
yes.
Center side would still be functioning and operating. The court would,
Have to vacate for construction.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
All right, thank you very
Okay,
much.
thanks.
thank you.
During the tour, some residents asked to speak under public comment. It's not on the work session agenda, and Clerk Rowe and I were just talking about possibly adding that in the future. So if there are residents that would like to speak at this time,
Goodness, I hate using this thing because I don't.
yeah, there's a button to turn it on. Joe is.
Hello, Tyrone Bridges, Ypsilanti Township resident. I am speaking in support of Josh McCollister, the president of the New West Willow Neighborhood Association, and how what happened last night at the church regarding his leadership, it was sad. At greatest, it was pathetic. And it didn't do any justice to nobody but to Joanne McCullough. You guys know her. You guys have been supporting her. If anybody have been supporting her, you guys know what I'm talking about. You created this woman. You created her behavior, and you condoned it because you didn't sanction or even tell her, cool it. This guy's doing amazing things in the community with these kids. What if you lose him? What if you lose other people? It's just like you lost me out there. But thank God for Pastor Ford's church. We have a new computer lab up in there. And we're going to work with Josh, and we're going to work with everybody that we want to work with over there in West Willow. We're going to bring some things together. My other support, I wanted to speak about the assault that happened to Monica Ross Williams. I was there. I didn't see the assault, but at the same time, the assault happened. And the sad part about it, you have Kathy Wyatt, I have her on videotape, talking to the officers, convincing them not to arrest the guy. What type of precedent does that set for women being assaulted by men or by anybody jumping in their face and doing something like that to them? I would like the township to really take that in consideration, because it could be a possible liability on y'all as well if y'all keep on letting Joanne run that neighborhood association in that building on Tyler Road as her own club. It's sad. Please do something about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Monica Ross Williams, 2150 Chevrolet Street. As most
It's voice activated, so you have to keep,
It's flashing, so
maybe when she jerks.
sorry, Mom. You're good, you're fine. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Monica Cross Williams, 2150 Chevrolet, since August 8th, 2001. Yep, what Tyrone said is true. I have been a resident of West Willow since August 8th of 2001, at 2150 Chevrolet Street. 2003, I was asked by the then President Nathan Norman to fill in as the recording secretary because the recording secretary quit. And he asked me if I could take notes, and I said, yeah, I can take notes. And so that's what I did for pretty much 7 years, as I took notes and I volunteered, and I never asked for a dime because it wasn't a dime to ask for, right? The whole point of working with a neighborhood association is actually do the work of the neighborhood. In 2010, I came off as recording secretary, and I was appointed as the political advisory for a year. And then when I got appointed to the Park Commission, because I don't believe in conflicts of interest, I voluntarily resigned that position and was on the Park Commission. I don't know how to best describe what happened to me last night, but I can say a couple things. It was insulting. It was emancipating. I am terrified still. I was pushed. I was told to, I'm not going to use the language, I have it on recording. Just put it like that. It is totally untenable, completely untenable, that is what our neighborhood association has become. I'm not here to talk about I'm not here to basically ask the township to run the neighborhood association. There is a building at 2057 Tyler Road. As most of you know on that board, that building is owned by Ypsilanti Township government. It started with our original association that was not a 501c3, and the township decided to allow for the association at that point to use the building for that. I believe it was a Washington County Sheriff's Office dispatch organization. At that point, a substation. The taxpayers of this township deserve better, and I happen to be one of them. With that, I'm going to ask this board to seriously consider pulling 2057 from that nonprofit. It is not required that the board and this township and these taxpayers allow for the use of that building by association and the person of the assailant that assaulted me, who now is claiming, I guess, they're the president of the association, their spouse. The township has to take action. You have to take action on that building. It's not about that association. It's about every taxpayer, all 56,000 taxpayers in this community. Pay for that land. Pay for that, everything that goes there. And it pains me to say this today. It pains me because that association means the world to me. But it's time to pull it back. Residents should not be assaulted because they're trying to do Robert's rules at a meeting. Please, board, please take action. It is time. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
It's voice acting, you gotta get real close. Just your lips have to be close.
Dead battery. Hello. Josh McAllister, Ypsilanti Township resident and the new West Willow Neighborhood Association president. Again, I come here to apologize for an unruly meeting that was never called to order. Motions happened and votes happened. The Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department was called. Members were locked out of the meeting, and I'm truly sad for all these things that happened. I have a rogue board. I've employed DRC to try to come in. I don't know if they will look at it. But at this point, this is very stressful for not only myself and the teams that are coming in. We had almost 60, 70 people there last night. It was really cool. Last two meetings have been packed, jam-packed house. I think people are really ready for the summer, and when we do some cool stuff, things in West Willow with the farmers market and the youth, and I'm hoping that stuff isn't tarnished around Ypsilanti Township. And I'm truly sorry, Ypsilanti board members and Ms. Stumble for coming to them meetings and them being like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah. Are there any other public comments? If not, we'll go back to the work session. If we could quickly. The first item on the work session agenda is a water and sewer rebate program. So this program has been in existence for quite a few years, and currently people who qualify can get $20 towards their water and sewer bill every 2 months. And what has happened is, 2017 is the last time we changed the amount. It went up to $20. So because of the economy and then the increase in, utility costs from the water and sewer department, several people who were actually on the list to receive the benefit and of the subsidy, they said it's just not enough. They try to conserve it and whatever it's just with rising costs, and we're just asking if the board would like to consider increasing it from $20 to $40 every 2 months for the subsidy program. So open it up for questions or comments.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this forward, and I'd be in support of increasing it.
Thank you. Are there any other? So we're just going to discuss it here, and if the board is in favor of moving it forward, then we would have to do a budget amendment as well for that at the next meeting, yes. Is there any questions about the program or how it works?
Yeah. So I know that I had asked, what the qualifications are, so I think we might want to spell that out a little better if we're going to act on it.
Yes.
I know it was included, but spelling out exactly what the qualifications are, because it lists like a federal something, but I think we should make it easier for people to understand that. And then, was there a potential total amount? I thought there was when I was looking at the packet, or we don't know what the whole amount would be? Like if every entity, if every person who had it now got that increase to 40, what the cost total would be?
Well, it's currently budgeted at $10,400, so we would look at doubling that.
Okay.
And thank you for pointing that out as well. And we'll put the application and everything in the packet if people are, in general, support of moving this forward. But it's the same guideline, it's a federal guideline that the township adopts every year. We get it from our assessing department. It applies for taxes as well, deferment of taxes. And so the township board sets the poverty guidelines. every year.
And I think there's a strong understanding from people who make those decisions, like you guys who've been here for a while and the assessor probably, but I think for the public to know exactly what that means or be able to look at that language, I think it would be helpful, at least in our minutes.
Yeah,
I know
and
exactly what we're talking about and what the level is.
The levels that
Yeah.
we adopted, yeah.
Yeah, because I think we've done that before with some of the other things that we've done. I just think it would be helpful so that everybody can see what
Yeah.
that exactly is.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that, and probably should have included it in this memorandum as well. But I just wanted to see the overall feeling of people before we proceeded at all. Just
Madam Chair.
General direction, Frank?
Just as, we could include, like, as an addendum to the minutes, the application that you guys already.
Yeah, and they have the,
And then, I just wanted to add to that, Corey and Brenda's office, like, once you're in this program and we're aware, like, Corey connects with them every year.
Every
Sends
year,
them a
yeah.
mailer, you know, I'm sure would call if she couldn't get a hold of him or something.
yeah.
So,
Every year we mail out, it's required that we do that, because some income levels change, so you just can't get it automatically. You have to go through the same procedures as you do for tax abatement, or, it's not abatement, it's called deferment? Yeah.
So I thank you for bringing it forward as well. I would be interested in us taking it forward.
Okay. Is there any objections? Maybe that's a better, to bringing it forward? Okay. Excellent. The next item on the decision is, this is about appointed boards and commissions stipend. What I didn't realize is that Ann Arbor Transportation Authority, Huron River Watershed, Ypsilanti Regional Resource Management Authority, and Washtenaw Area Transportation Committee, I did not realize that they did not get a stipend. Like, all those years that you served, Ryan served on AAATA, and I assume, because Yucca does, Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, the Tax Board of Review, they all get a stipend, but none of the other appointments to boards and commissions receive a stipend. So I know, like I said, Yucca does, but the ones listed here don't. So we make appointments every year. Some get stipends and some don't. So I was interested to know if people wanted to pay stipends to all the boards and commissions. Okay.
Are we looking for a motion?
No. This is a work session.
Yeah.
So work session, we just see how people feel about it. Are they, do they object to moving it forward?
I would absolutely think that this is a good thing and should move forward. We ask people to allocate a large portion of their time and goodwill towards our causes, so a stipend, I think, would be appropriate. Just as a way to, it's not going to change anybody's life one way or the other, but it might help just show our appreciation for the work that they do for the township. So, yes, I would absolutely support that moving forward.
And I'm sorry, Ryan, I did not know that AAATA didn't. I assumed, which is really bad. Why I did that, I don't know.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I also agree with the other trustee, Mr. Ryan, but I wanted just to talk about, he's saying moving forward, so we're not talking about retro.
No,
We're talking about moving
Yes,
forward.
yes.
Just want to get that clear.
yes.
Thank you.
And full-time officials are not allowed to get a stipend, so that wouldn't apply to us, but trustees can, and as well as citizens, of course. And if our staff goes during the day and they're on the committee, they don't get double paid. We don't do that. That's,
I think it's consistent if everybody gets paid as opposed to separating, because not that, like Trustee Ryan said, it wouldn't change anybody's life, but it shows a certain amount of appreciation. And if you're getting into a one of those commissions, I mean, and not that it'll be a deal breaker, but if you're getting into one of those commissions, you would like to be, acknowledged. But if you're not, then, it might be one of those things that kind of discourages someone from getting involved.
Right.
I mean, it's something as little as not as little, but as the amount of that being that. So I just wanted to say that. It brings everything consistent so that everybody gets a stipend.
Right.
Yeah,
Seems fair, right? It
Yeah.
seems fair.
yeah.
Ms. Kaiser?
Arlo Kaiser, just out of curiosity, how many people are you talking about? How many boards and how many people are on these boards for a total?
Well, there's one representative from, let me go back to, probably 7, I don't know. I can add them up here. These are the ones that came, so there's one on, there's probably 2, yeah, there's about 7 probably, 7.
So
10.
only 7 people?
Yeah.
Okay, when you say boards and all these people, it sounds like, 20, 30 people. So it's only 7 people
Well,
or 7 boards?
the other committees and boards are paid. These are the ones that are not.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I'd be interested, maybe Trustee Hunter could help us. Do you know why AATA? I mean, is there a rationale that's been given? Because I had a resident reach out to me on this particular item, and they felt pretty strongly with the amount of what we pay with AATA that they should be paying for that, and I didn't have a good answer as to why they've taken that route, because it is a pretty substantial amount of work.
Yeah, so short answer is the long answer, which is I'm not quite sure. Unfortunately, that there was no policy in place. With the other representatives, the majority of them are coming out of Ann Arbor. So perhaps Ann Arbor, and I'm speculating, perhaps Ann Arbor has a stipend policy of their own, and AATA just may have assumed that the township had one in place as well.
I feel like we should look into that, just because the
Yeah.
resident that reached out to me felt pretty strongly that the amount of, which there's consistent thought on this board, at least when the millage was cost, that yeah, there is a lot that residents are paying for, and I think they felt like the representation, I don't think they had a problem with the stipend, I think they just felt like the group, that entity that should take care of that is that. So I think we should at least look into, are there other policies like because there's only a city rep, a township rep, and everybody else is from Ann Arbor, right?
Right.
So if Ann Arbor has some other policy, it'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, I concur. I think we should look into what Ann Arbor, what their policy might be, and use that as a template. But also, I will say, it was not for nothing. I mean, they do provide a Zingerman's dinner before those meetings, so there was that.
Good information. Very good. All right. Is there any other discussion before we go into the review of the packet? This was distributed to the trustees. It's naloxone nasal spray, and this is an actual just pamphlet on it. The treasurer's office is handing it out. We received this from a grant from the National Opioid. Settlement, pardon me. It's a settlement. And so Lori is organizing this and put it all together and worked with how to spend the funds. If you remember last meeting, we created the actual fund and line item because we're receiving, and it was 19,000, is that right? Somewhere around there. And so this is one of the expenditures, and then we're actually handing out the spray as well. And I noticed that some people were asking for them today. Yeah, they were. So eventually, I believe at the library, they have it's like a newspaper, and you can just open up the box. It's a newspaper box, and you can open it up and just, get it yourself without having to go to anywhere to get it. That's what she would like to see ultimately. And she also, with Clerk Rowe, went and there was a free medication box where if someone passes away in your family or if your medication expires, there's a few locations that you can drop off your medication. One is in our police services building on Huron Street. Not everyone's comfortable, doing that, but you can also do it at the pharmacies. I think there's 1 or 2 pharmacies that you can drop off old medication. So we're the community center with John Hines. Lori is working at locating an actual drop-off there. A lot of seniors have asked for it, and they're excited about getting that as well. So that's good news. Another highlight is there was a World War II veteran from Ypsilanti Township, Sergeant William Barksdale, and he received his medals in the Township Civic Center last Friday. It was in here. It was for their family and for the chaplain, and it was really, really nice. And they were, anyway, that was something very positive that occurred. And he's 98, and here's the event information that was handed out. But Mr. Barksdale is a township resident, and actually, Doug, I believe he was in the originally over off of Holmes Road. Yeah. So anyways, that was a very positive experience. We did attend, myself and Debbie and John and Gloria attended the meeting last night for the West Willow Association. Like Monica couldn't find the words. I really cannot find the words to describe it. It's the second time, and it was a lot of yelling, and it was so out of nature. But this is the second time. We brought the new neighborhood watch coordinator, and that was her first experience there. I could read her body language and her eyes. She was very surprised, but she said, similar to what Ryan said, that was your first neighborhood watch meeting. So it wasn't quite as orderly and productive as the ones that we attend in other neighborhood watch meetings, and it was a little concerning, the division in the association, which is a 501c3, so they have to elect their members and stuff. Normally, we don't go to a lot of association meetings unless it's their annual one and we help host it. But this has also been their neighborhood watch meeting, so we always attend every month. So we're going to have a discussion about possibly just emailing updates from the staff, and maybe if a board member would like to come, we can, but I just really don't want to put our staff in that position again, just to be honest. I don't know. I'm like Monica, I don't know how to describe it. I did not, they closed the doors and we were out in the foyer for, when they had the actual vote. We did get a couple assignments from the residents for drainage issues, a tree down. But the residents that were leaving just said, I'm not coming back. And that's what made me so sad, So anyways, we'll figure out a way to address that in the future and continue to provide information and support. And it's just rough right now. So I just want to put that out there. I don't want our staff to have to go through it. Ms. Kaiser?
Yes, is this just the changing of the guard? The old guard doesn't like the new guard? Is that what the problem is? Or part of the problem?
Ms. Kaiser, I am not exactly sure of the division that has occurred. We try to stay out of it because it's a nonprofit 501c3 and they're, electing their board members and stuff, so.
Well, I have gone to, in years past, gone to the,
Yeah.
the meetings and that kind of stuff. It was well-run, everybody was happy, getting along and that kind of stuff. And this surprises me to hear this.
Yeah, us too, and it's just disappointing, and I feel really bad for the residents. It was a great turnout for the last two meetings, very well attended, and I just, I hope the healing starts and they do dispute resolution and can mend and,
Because in the past, they worked so well together and,
yeah, and I'm
it
not
was a
sure.
happy group.
Yeah. I blame COVID on a lot of things, but,
Okay.
so, thank you for the questions.
May I make a remark?
Yes.
Listening to what we heard earlier, and witnessing it for myself in a previous meeting, it is disappointing and quite frankly is a little disturbing. If there's ever a place you should be able to go in a community and be in a safe space, it should be ideally a community meeting or community watch or neighborhood watch. I mean, those are places where we should be coming together and discussing solutions, not creating problems. So I don't know what we can do as a body or as a board, but I would recommend or suggest that we think long and hard about what we might be able to do, because that's just not okay. And to hear Monica here, and Monica is a very strong woman and a very tough person. So to see her literally limping out of here with shaken voice and tears in the eyes is disturbing to me. So I would recommend, like I said, I suggest we just look at what might be able to be done moving forward, because that was not okay. Thank you.
So I would echo concerning, because that's not what you want happening in the community. But I heard a specific ask, and the specific ask was for us to be thoughtful about what is allowed to occur on township property. So at this point, I mean, we've heard information. I was not there when it happened because I left before when they asked us to escorted us, the people who were not actual residents of the neighborhood, they asked everybody to leave. And so at that point, we were out in the lobby area, and so this must have happened after I had left, even though there was a lot of tension in the last two meetings. But what I heard was a specific ask and accountability on our part for what occurs on township property. So I would suggest that we do some exploring in maybe not exactly the specifics of what happened, because that's probably going to end up in the hands of other people, already is if there were officers there. But I do think we need to pay attention to any building that's township property. We would not allow anything like that to happen on township property anywhere else. So I don't understand why that could go forward here. But I don't think it's as easy as just saying, okay, making a snap decision. I think we really need to give some thoughtful thinking to the building, because it sounds like just from the short history that Monica Ross Williams shared here, it's a building that's evolved over time to be used for several different specific spaces. So I think we need to attend to that, and we need to put some thinking into that. We have contracts with other entities, maybe not in buildings, but in the park, like Little League comes to mind. And there's real specific, you do, we do things that are all spelled out really clearly. So I think that it would be appropriate for us to look at more on the timeline and the history of that building, and then what's appropriate and how that's handled because it's township property. And that was a specific ask I heard.
Good point. Agreed. Trustee Eldridge?
Trustee Swanson, I would agree wholeheartedly. I certainly expressed some of my thoughts today to the supervisor and the clerk and the attorney, and I'll save those for a better time so that I can make sure I go through them in a thoughtful way. But there are certainly things I think should be done with all of our buildings, and not simply as a result of this issue, because if you remember, we've had other issues where we had concerns at that property as it related to insurance and some hold harmless agreements for other events. So I'll address those later with all of us. But since the lieutenant's here tonight, and it was mentioned by a resident that deputies did respond, I'm guessing their body cameras would have been on recording the incident. Since another name was mentioned of an employee directing those deputies on what to do and what not to do, allegedly, I would like to request that we be able to see that video so that we can determine and see what took place actually. I don't know if we need to FOIA that, but if we do, I'll make the formal request that we can FOIA that body camera information as soon as possible.
And I would add that I'm sure, I don't want to laugh, I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm thinking given what was going on, it did look it looked stressful for the deputies that were there, and they were, early in the meeting when I wasn't there, they were being asked to do specific things. It appeared at one point there was an ask, not by any county employee, that there was, it appeared to look, now again, I'm from the back, it looked like there was an ask to maybe have them escort somebody out, and they looked to be holding their own and trying to figure out what to do there. And the previous meeting, there were also things going on where deputies were, like at one point a deputy did escort somebody out. So there's a lot going on where I think deputies are showing up to do their report, and they're being asked to do things kind of in the middle of some tense moments that I don't think is reasonable. But I know that earlier in the meeting, you could see somebody pointing and telling them to do something, and they're really trying to hold their own. So it would probably be a good idea to just, if they haven't documented whatever happened there was other stuff going on, and they were really stuck in a rough spot. And one of them was pretty brand new, doing the report for Deputy Garlick, who did a really nice job in the way he handled that. But I just think it was a rough thing for them to be involved in, and I think some of this probably started earlier with what they were being told to do. And I don't know, in that kind of instance, like who does get to tell the deputy what to do? That part I didn't understand either. So that would be something to look into and just have a talk with them.
I wanted to say something.
Sorry, Trustee Newman?
Yes, I was there, and I thought after the deputies made their report, I thought they left. Yeah, so to me, what I think is security is going to be real big if it's not big now, everywhere. So if it's a township property, not that it needs to be in a militaristic state, but in that case, it would have been good to have this, someone stay there to maintain, not that they would maintain control, but just so the residents know that, this can't really go out of control that much. Because, well, yeah, I just thought that it was pretty spirited. And, but I thought after the deputies made the report, I thought, with them leaving, not that they had to stay, but I thought it would have been good, especially being township property.
That wasn't township property, just for clarification. That was a church.
Yeah.
That wasn't our property, and
Private property.
Okay.
and historically, our deputies and our staff come to Neighborhood Watch, and they're on an agenda, and they do a presentation, and
Right.
our police and our firefighters always leave, and because that's just, what happens. And also, everyone was asked to leave.
Exactly.
Okay, so and the deputies did a great job during the
Yeah.
meeting. A really, really good job. Shane, would you like to say anything? Because I know you have more information about.
So the case was sent to McLean and Winter's office, so I can't really say a whole lot about it, but deputies did show up last night. They took statements from, I want to say 4 different witnesses, the alleged suspect, the victim. It was all put into a report. It was sent to your office. So you guys should have that report in the next couple of days. As to the removing of people, from my understanding, when the deputies showed up, they were being requested to remove members because they weren't members of the association. We're not allowed to remove somebody from the building unless they're committing a crime. So that's the first time I think we've ever been requested to remove somebody from the building when we showed up. So the deputies were trying to maintain peace when they were there, but ultimately they came back, they took the report, and you guys should have it soon. So
Shane, did you get a recording as well?
it was recorded. It's open right now, so your guys' office should be able to request the video. And the FOIA process wouldn't take place till after that.
Well, it's at the prosecutor's
The
office.
prosecutor's office can ask for the video,
It wasn't a video. Was there a video?
the body cam videos.
Oh, I got you. Okay, I'm sorry.
Shane, thank you. I would withdraw. If they have access to it, that's all I wanted.
Very good.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I have a question. Shane, I'm sorry. So it's my understanding, for those who were there, they asked, the police officers had left.
Correct.
At that time, there shouldn't have been no body cam on you because they had left.
When the
And
deputies,
I believe this happened after the fact they left. I was in the hallway, and they was also telling everybody who was a member, do not come in. So at that point, Monica was on the phone saying she's going to call the police. So I'm just trying to figure out, really, was there a camera? Because they had left.
when the deputies arrived back, their cameras were activated when they took all the statements.
Or when they took the statement, but not actually
During the actual
pushing
meeting,
or
no.
hitting them nobody.
No,
That's
no,
what
it
I
wasn't
thought,
until
because
we
they had
came-
left.
Yeah, no, it wasn't until we came back and we took the actual statements.
Okay.
That's why I said the report, it contains all the statements, the witness statements. That can be requested by McLean
Right.
Winter's office because that report's going to
But
their
it doesn't
office.
show any pushing because
No,
they
the-
weren't present at the time.
Correct, yeah, they weren't present at the time when that occurred. From my
Okay.
understanding, they came and they spoke, when they got done, as we've always done in the past, they left the meeting. And from what I was told, it was peaceful at the time when they left. They didn't feel, I was told they didn't feel the need that they needed to stay because it was peaceful at that point, so they left, as we've done in the past. So it wasn't until after they left that we got called back, and I think it was pretty shortly thereafter we got called back, if I'm not mistaken, so.
Well,
When
they
they
went
came back-
into a private meeting, and that's when everything had happened, I believe. We were all outside. When they went in that private shutdown meeting, that's when stuff occurred. And
it
we
is.
were still in the building.
Yeah, so unless
Outside.
somebody was in there recording it, and to my knowledge, nobody was, because we asked and there was no video, to my knowledge, of the actual incident occurring in there. And we had conflicting statements. So, and I can't go into all what
Right,
the
of
statements
course,
were, but there
of
was
course.
conflicting statements. It was all put into the report and sent over to the prosecutor as we would normally do it, but, yeah.
Thank you.
You're
I do
welcome.
want to say, the deputy did a great job.
He's very new, so he did, I
He
thought
did a very good job.
Yeah, he did the meeting, another meeting a couple weeks ago, and he seemed to have praises sung about him. So he's good. We're happy to have him.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that was good. And
Good.
Commissioner Hodges was there, Commissioner Somerville, Annie Somerville, State Rep, Jimmy Wilson. Did I miss anyone? But they were there, and I saw Commissioner Hodges this morning in a meeting that we had, and he said that he was going to try to see if they'll do dispute resolution.
Good.
So mediation is what, the first time the prior month is what I had actually recommended, but, and I guess Josh McAllister has agreed, but you have to have both parties agree. So hopefully they will agree and work this out.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair, real briefly. I understand, I hear Monica and the other members talking about the meeting last night. Of course, Reverend Crouch Church is private property, but when it comes to If they ever go back to using the township building, I think we should look at guidelines. Not only there, we got other buildings that people are using. I think there should be guidelines. Because if you don't have guidelines, people seem to do what they want to do. And if they have rules and regulations, they will cease and desist, I think. You got to have something in place. I don't think it's right not to let them use the building, but once they sign on that paper what they're supposed to be doing, that's a whole different issue. So I look forward to that conversation.
And we do have use of buildings at the community center. John Hines actually resent them to me. And some of the neighborhood watch groups use them, or associations, I would say. They've used them at no cost. And there's just not a form for the CRC, but like if you have a park, there's things with the park, you have to have insurance. If it's a special event, we have special events process, but not really for the CRC building. We had one incident last year where we were trying to have a policy on it, but it really wasn't written, so you're absolutely right. We can get that written. And Stan, I was wondering if you could help lead this.
I can.
Thank you. Yeah, because that would be helpful. And bring it back. We'll bring it back, and I'll help in any way we can to just help resolve this and make it fair and open and transparent for everybody that participates or uses one of our buildings, because the liability is the township taxpayers.
Yep.
That's and that's the issue. If it was.
I'd be happy to assist Trustee Eldridge if you need.
Okay, thanks, Deb, because I know that you helped with the policies on the parks. Right. So there's a resolution and policy that would make it consistent and clear on what the building's used for. Yes.
Madam Chair, just one question, and it's something we'll look into, but I just need to know if someone can help me understand. In regards to our building on Tyler Road, are there two different groups who are both equally claiming that they have access or rights to use the CRC building? I just need to know if are there two separate boards here that are equally claiming that they are the neighborhood watch or neighborhood association?
My short answer would be yes, because I heard Mr. McAllister identify himself tonight as the president of the Neighborhood Watch Association, but yet I'm hearing that there was a vote last night to place Miss McCullum back in place. So I don't know that we really know, but there is two different factions saying that they're in charge.
We did receive an email this morning, which I forwarded to Stan and Heather and Ryan. They sent it to the board members that were at the meeting. And I'm just pointing out who the new board members are of the neighborhood. But, we don't really get into that. We don't get into for Habitat. We don't YMC. We really don't get into nonprofit board members and stuff like that. I mean, this one is a little different. We've had working relationships for decades with them.
I was just asking the question only because of the township owning the building. If two different groups are claiming equal rights to our building, and there is some kind of conflict, that almost seems to me that maybe nobody should be using that building until they go through a dispute resolution process. I don't know all the details just yet. I'm just trying to make sure that in regards to our building, there's some degree of clarity as to who's actually claiming rights to use that building. Maybe it's part of what we have to look into.
It's an excellent question.
Maybe nobody should be using it right. Maybe nobody should be using it right now until they go through a dispute resolution and figure out who's actually the recognized body. I don't know all the details. I'm just trying to catch up here. So.
And in the past, the county had they had classes for young children on the computer. distribution as well as, what else? There's a farmer's market there, and there's a great community garden. There's a lending library. There's a lot of good things. We just, this is new, and we do have to sort it out because it is a taxpayer's liability. So we have an obligation, and thank you, Stan, and Debbie for agreeing to help with that. All right. We're finished with the work session. Is there any other discussion items? We do have a meeting tomorrow with Greg Dill. So the sheriff hasn't, I don't think, responded yet, but we do have one with Greg Dill. So we'll update everyone.
I did send another email yesterday, and still got no response. So if if you can get any information tomorrow, that would.
So you sent the email to the sheriff?
I sent it to the sheriff, the person.
Kathy Wyatt?
Well, I included her this time. I didn't include her the first time. There was another person I sent it to as well. So it was Sheriff Clayton, and this other person was the person that I was told to get in touch with.
Oh, for the information pertaining to just the cost analysis and stuff?
Yeah. Nobody has responded. So I will still keep trying.
And we will assist in that.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
I
Pardon me?
said, send them a certified letter. Respond to that.
Thank
Well,
you.
they have to respond then, I think, eventually. So
Yes.
he keeps emailing them. And I'm not on it.
It's not on.
Certified letter.
It's
There's
not on.
nobody. I know, I turned it off. But
Oh.
a certified letter never personal life.
So we'll share our concerns with the administrator tomorrow and the email and see if we can get some movement.
Okay.
If not, we might have to, Trustee Peterson. I know.
Trying to use all the available resources and people without going to that point. But if, I've exhausted all of those attempts, then something like that would definitely be a consideration.
Madam Chair,
Boy, yeah.
John, what are the specific things that you were asking for?
I
Or
was
you can email them, or whatever, if we could ask Greg about it tomorrow.
what I'll do, I'll forward you.
Oh, no, it was to me, right?
Yeah, I don't think.
Okay.
Well, it's, as long as, if Brenda has it, that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll meet with Greg tomorrow, I think at 10 or 9.
Bring it up.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. For general legal update, I know it's 6:44 and it's 7. We would really like to see if more residents come because we've had a few questions about Golf Village, and people are very interested in what's happening from a legal perspective, from the demolition, and so we're going to wait till 7 since it's almost 7. Is that all right, guys? The first, right, do you guys want to wait till the regular meeting so that more resident would be? Is that all right with you? So we're going to accept the resignation of Keith Jason from the YCUA. He's been there 10 years, and he's very busy, and one of the requests is to accept his resignation from Yucca. The next item is a request to approve the Michigan Tournament Fleet for the rental of golf carts for the JEL Summer Jazz Concert Series in the amount of $3,760. This will be funded from a grant that we receive from the Visitors and Convention Bureau, Destination Ann Arbor. We get one every year. We We used it last year, and we're actually going to get it longer. This time, they used to charge $150 each time that they delivered it, and now they're going to drop it off, and we're going to keep the cart for 10 weeks. And it's 3 6-passenger carts for those who have attended. We drive them in, Yeah, the big ones, yes. And so we'll have them here at the park as well.
Chair, did we have 3 last year or 2? 2? So we can get additional. I think it's necessary. It's so hard to get those people where they need to be, so that's good.
Yeah, it transports them. So, any questions on that?
Do they have lights?
Yes, it had, I think it had a horn too. So.
Yeah, the bigger ones too, which is so important.
We're also looking at putting lights in, that'll come back here in that park in general.
That'd be nice.
And hopefully they're solar so they can be timed and go off because of the dark sky. And
That'd be nice.
but that'll come later. There's been another group, EMU row team has approached the township to have competitive rowing at Ford Lake.
Yeah.
So they're interested in that. We had one meeting and they talked about it 3 or 4 years ago, and now because of COVID, they're coming back. And when they do, it'll come to this board, of course. But I guess Ford Lake is set up perfectly for rowing, and mostly women compete from EMU. We have the boathouse, so this is an extension of doing that. And they'll have regattas, but there will be presentations, community engagement on that before. So I do think that park is going to, well, it's the first time that many people have been there, and they absolutely loved it. And so hopefully we can do even more things in our parks. Next item is a budget amendment. Wait, I'm sorry. Request to approve the change order with Stantec for the Loon Feather Point Park renovation project in the amount of $11,858, which is budgeted. John?
Good evening, John Hines, Recreation Director. The Residential Services Department is requesting that the Board of Trustees authorize change order 4 for Stantec to finish the completion of the Loon Feather Park project. This change order with allow scope of work for additional site visits that took longer because the project started in, the last change order was to take us through August, September 2022, and this now takes us to the end of this month, March 31st, 2023. Right now, the contractor is supposed to be at the park tomorrow to install seed and some landscaping work around the poles to hopefully get it in the ground and established, and that's kind of the last item on the punch list.
Any questions regarding that? Mr. Winters?
Yeah, we're hoping to get to the finish line here pretty soon. Mark Pasco from Stantec has expended a great deal of time, far and above what he originally thought it was going to take to have this project brought to completion. Once it's completed, I think this month, we still have a significant amount of retainage from which we're going to be sitting down and probably having further discussions, negotiations over how much that retainage should go back to the township pursuant to the liquidated damages clause. So some of these costs we've incurred with Mr. Pasco through Stantec have been because of the delay by the contractor. So again, the goal is to get that project completed and the park open on time, which I think it will be. We still may have disagreement on what amount the contractor is willing to negotiate, but as you become accustomed to, there's probably not a week goes by that you don't get a loon feather type letter. So I'll keep the board apprised as to where we stand with those negotiations on the damages.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is a budget amendment. We have the Loon Feather Park project. It was carried forward. We have the emergency repairs for the flooding at the community center and golf course, as well as more extensive and additional work will be needed and brought back to the board. This will be funded by appropriation of prior year fund balance, and that's out of the recreation 213. Then we have the fire millage capital fund. We're carrying this forward for capital improvements for concrete floor treatment and paint. Am I reading the right one? This looks familiar. I thought we did that last time. And the next one is to increase the budget for contractual chipping services due to the severe storms. So our crews are working very hard, and there is so much debris out there. So we have 2 trucks that are staffed by our township people, and seasonals were brought in. One's a 20-yard, one's a 10-yard. And then we have a contractor that, of course, that's their business that they do, and they have very good equipment. And they had a grabber that would actually grab, instead of physically grabbing it, it would grab it and put it into the chipping device, which I said, why don't we have one of those? But this, I know now why we're not in the business. It just reminds me, the reason we stopped is because of the injury to our employees. This is very, I had the pleasure of experiencing it twice and just working alongside the staff, and it's very labor intensive. And regardless of age or height or anything, you know, it's just hard work. And 3 of the gentlemen that work, they used to do it for a living. And they said, it's just hard work. And I've never seen so many large amounts of branches, but trees fell, you know, and people cut up the trees and brought it to the front. And our team is doing such a remarkable job at it. And then, so this is for $50,000. John Hines did get 3 quotes. And this company that we're using, they did it last year in our parks, which our parks have a lot of tree damage and tree limbs and stuff. So we'll probably need them to go there as well. Giovanna?
Hi, Madam Supervisor. I'd like to ask if I could make a change. I did notice that I have 2 prior year fund balance on here for the repairs at the community center. One of them should be a reimbursement line, insurance reimbursement.
For revenue?
Yes. So
the 200 or
the 100,000 should be the insurance reimbursement. The number is 213-000-676.012. I do apologize.
So that's insurance reimbursement.
Yes, it is.
Yes, that's what I heard.
That is correct.
213-000-676.012.
Correct. Insurance reimbursement revenue. I apologize.
Thank you. We'll make that change. Questions or comments? I mean, we're trying.
Not about that. I know I had a resident reach out to me about just the trees and just the understanding of like what ordinances we have that are related to the trees. So like if you know there's a dead tree, or if your neighbor has a dead tree, and I didn't have a great answer. That person had gone through some of the ordinances and they had looked at it. But it seems like going forward, you want to be proactive instead of reactive. With a storm, we don't have any choice. We have to be reactive. But if you look around, like we're an older township, like we're an established place, especially on the east side, and even other places now. You know, if this building, the court building, is 40 years old, like we're a community that's been here for a while. And then thinking about like what happens with trees, because like everywhere you go right now, I agree, there's debris everywhere. Like if you even ride along 94, like heading towards town, even the area of like where the sound barriers are, where with Sugarbrook and stuff, you can see that it just wiped out even like shrub stuff, and it's all just sitting there. When spring comes, it's probably some of it may be covered, but I don't know what we do, like how we look at like different areas and we look at trees that are older or whatever, because you want trees, but you want healthy trees in a community. And so I just think, I don't have an answer, but I think we need to be looking at those types of things in some kind of a fashion that kind of goes year by year, looking at what would be manageable, it could be done, because otherwise what happens is you get in a situation like we have now where there's so much damage you can't handle it. So I don't know what the answer is. There's got to be ways that communities that are older kind of proactively look at that. What's our responsibility? What's the responsibility for residents? And then what are some ways where we could maybe make that easier? Like, are there grants that people can get? Because, you know, getting trees removed or trimmed is very expensive at a time when things are still hard for a lot of people. So I think sometimes when those things aren't handled, it's because, you know, people are making the choice between different things, and cutting the tree down doesn't make the list, right? Because they're so I think that it's worth looking at and just understanding, and then maybe communicating a little more. Because even last night at the neighborhood watch meeting, there were a lot of questions about who's responsible for what. There may be a way for us to make that easier for residents to look at. I don't know what that would be, but there were a lot of questions about who's responsible, who would you call, and then that would help in some ways.
Right, I agree. So we're going to take a 3-minute break. It's 6, that's okay, it's 6:57.
Sorry.